This is FBG Jen.
And FBG Kristen.
And I'm FBG Margot, host and producer. You're listening to the podcast that will help you keep a lid on the junk in the trunk and inspire you to live a happy and confident life.
Each episode, we chat with motivational experts and celebs and share our own candid adventures in being healthy.
If you're looking for a podcast that's equal parts hilarious and enlightening, well then welcome to the Fit Bottomed Girls podcast.
Ever wonder why some people can seem to eat well and work out regularly almost effortlessly? Do these people have more willpower? Are they born that way? Are they special? Well, we know how they did it. And it does have something to do with willpower, but not in the way that you think. So get the scoop at fitbottomedgirls.com/coaching. Welcome back to the Fit Bottom Girls podcast. This is FBG Margot, and on the line today we have FBG Jen.
Hello.
And then we have FBG Kristen.
Hey.
And we have a very interesting guest, you guys. I think you're going to really enjoy her. Her name is Sahar Aker, and she has the I Choose Beauty Challenge on Instagram. And which one of you wants to talk first about Sahar?
I'm happy to. I'm sure we're both happy to. She's fantastic. So I met her in person, maybe 3.5 years ago, because I was in Hawaii and I posted something on Fit Bottomed Girls about being in Maui, and I got a direct message from her, and I hadn't known her so much, but when people are following FBG, a lot of times, like if they're more familiar with Jen, they'll sort of assume whoever it is that's posting is Jen. So anyway, after a little back and forth, I was like, oh yeah, so she and Jen had communicated previously, like online, and got to chatting. So we ended up meeting for coffee, and it's really cool because her whole I Choose Beauty, like this whole project is because, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whatever your life looks like, you do have the option to choose to see the beauty that surrounds you. And, sure, if you live somewhere like Hawaii, maybe that's a little bit easier, but that's also part of why she's there. Is she had a real struggle with depression, and she learned that choosing to see the beauty and to acknowledge the beauty around her was an effective and helpful way to fight that. And so going somewhere where there is really just something stunning and beautiful everywhere you turn was a helpful thing to do. And I mean, that's not like the only reason. It's not like, oh, I'm having a rough time, let me move to Hawaii. I'm not telling anybody to necessarily do that. But it was just kind of cool to talk to her about that and how, can make it easier to see the beauty, but it doesn't take away your struggles. Just like going on vacation, like if you live in a vacation-y spot, like it doesn't automatically make your life like vacation all the time.
And she has a partnership with Mental Health America, where she has created her own line of home goods and apparel, and she gives 5% of the proceeds to them. So I think that's just really cool. And Jen, what were you going to say?
I love that.
Yeah, it's just really her line and stuff. It's so cute. And then she's also really fun to follow on Instagram because she posts something that she finds beautiful every single day. That's part of her I Choose Beauty Challenge. And at the time of when we're recording this, she's almost up to 2,000. So that's how long she's been doing it, which is, I think, really, really cool. But it's really, really inspiring in case, you're going through your day and you're like, oh, blah, 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 and you haven't really chose to focus on beauty in any sort of way. She's a nice one to follow because you kind of get that reminder.
Which is awesome. And I'm remembering now from this episode we interviewed a few months ago, she dumps on Ohio quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
So please, if you're one of our FBGs in Ohio, don't take it personally. She was just going through a rough time when she was living there. But we do mention Ohio a few times in here, as well as Hawaii. But we love you guys wherever you are based. And if y'all love the show and you would like some stickers, we have Fit Bottom Girl stickers, and they are super duper cute. So just send us an email, podcast@fitbottomgirls.com, and we will send them to you wherever you may be. And please be sure to follow us on all of our social media. It's all either at Fit Bottom Girl or Fit Bottom Girls. Just check it out. Be sure to subscribe. That way you'll never miss an episode. And if you could leave us a 5-star review in Apple Podcasts / iTunes, we will read it on the air, and we would really, really appreciate it. Or even just throw some stars in there. That would be amazing. So you guys, I say we go right into our episode today with Sahar.
Let's do it. It's going to be beautiful.
In as little as 30 minutes, you can boost your willpower and find your true inner motivation to live a healthy life. Come join the Fit Bottom Revolution at fitbottomgirls.com/coaching and sign up for our online class, How to Amplify Your Willpower to Make Healthy Change. It's only $8, and you can save 20% when you use the code FBG Podcast. So sign up at fitbottomgirls.com/coaching today. Sahar Aker is a depression survivor, Mental Health America partner, and the founder of #IChooseBeauty, a social media movement on Instagram that empowers you to find happiness wherever you are. Her website is ichoosebeauty.org and features Sahar's experiences with depression and her tools to manage it. She's also created a line of inspired home goods and apparel out of her journey from darkness to light and donates 5% of the net proceeds to Mental Health America. Welcome to the show, Sahar.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
We are thrilled to have you on the show today. This is FBG Margot, and on the line today, we have FBG Jen.
Hey.
And we have FBG Kristen.
Hola.
And I'm going to ask you the first question. This November marks the 5 years since you started the hashtag #IChooseBeauty. And you post a thing of beauty every day on Instagram, every single day. Please tell our audience what inspired you to begin this journey and how has this transformed your life?
So it all started, like you said, it's going to be 5 years in November. So in 2013, I was in therapy. I was going through severe depression, and I had been in therapy for about a year and a half, and I was doing better, but I still was kind of vulnerable. And I was living in Ohio at the time, and the winters there are super brutal, super long, super cold. And winter, of course, you know, when the days get shorter and darker is the toughest time for me. And my therapist suggested that just to help me get through winter, that I try to notice something of beauty every day, because there's research, positive psychology research, that shows if you notice and appreciate something of beauty every day, that you're more likely to have more joy and meaning in your everyday life. So that's kind of what started it all. And I am a very visual person, so I took it a little bit further, and instead of just noticing something, I decided to take a picture of it, and I put it on Instagram using the hashtag #IChooseBeauty just to keep everything in one place. And I was just going to do it for a few weeks just to get through winter. But after I did it for a week, I noticed that I just felt more uplifted and more hopeful. So I just kept going, and it's just kind of become a part of my life. It's like, I always describe it as my life preserver. And I'm honestly afraid to stop doing it because I don't want to fall back down that dark hole.
So there's this post on your site about how to be happy living with depression, which I think a lot of people would be like, wait, what? Like, you can be happy and depressed at the same time? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. And when I was writing it, I was kind of thinking the same thing. People are going to think there's no way. And I guess it depends on the level of happiness and what people think happiness is. I learned a lot about that. But to have depression and to be able to manage it and still feel good is so important. And it's something that I have to do every single day. So to me, being happy, living with depression is my level of happiness. I think we all have different levels of happiness, but it's like, I know that depression is going to always be a part of my life. So I have to do whatever I can to to manage it and to be happy despite of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So now I know this is true for me, and I'm guessing it is for you as well, that some days it's easier to find beauty in anything. And, it's easier sometimes when you're feeling better or when you're somewhere beautiful, like say Maui, which is where Sahar is. It's easier to find beauty on those days than it is on others. And considering you're making a point to share this every day, I think that's what makes the project really wonderful, is you are finding and sharing beauty on the days when it's not necessarily as obvious as it would be. So I'm curious, after doing this for 5 years, has it gotten easier as you've gone along? And do you have any tips for people who, kind of want to incorporate this, but are like, oh, I just have so many days where there's nothing I see but gray and ugly?
Yeah. So half of those 5 years I was in Ohio. And I deliberately, since I moved to Maui, I deliberately, don't take a picture of the ocean every day, because that's just it's not realistic. It's not really my everyday life, which I think is what the most important thing is you don't have to like go anywhere extravagant to try to find beauty. And, so I challenge myself every day to try to find things that aren't necessarily, on specific to Maui, because obviously I live on a very beautiful place. But when I lived in Ohio, I was still able to find something every single day through the dreary, dark days. And yes, it can be so, so hard. I remember, when it was snowing and gray every single day, I just was like, what in the heck am I going to do? And, those are the days that you need it the most. So I would just kind of did different things. It doesn't have to be something that's so super obvious. It can be something so little. It can just be something like enjoying a hot cup of tea. It can be something as little as, really indulging in a little piece of chocolate, or noticing in the winter. For me, what I did, I would try to notice things of color. So part of it also is you can create your own beauty. And that's what I learned to do on the days that I really felt awful, or I just couldn't see anything. So I just surrounded myself with things of color. I would have I still have them. They're just like, they're crystal, like bright crystal thumbtacks, just fill your life with things that make you feel good. And on the days where you don't see anything, I would try to create something. Like I would try to do something nice for myself, or look at, a favorite piece of jewelry. I just would try to find anything.
Yeah, I think that's great. As you were speaking, it reminded me of a card that I have. And I don't know if you guys follow or shop at Emily McDowell Studio. She does all these really great different cards. But I have one that I have at the ready for when I have somebody who needs it. And it says, in Japan, broken objects are often repaired with gold. The flaw is seen as a unique piece of the object's history, which adds to its beauty. Consider this when you feel broken. And I really saw that as you were speaking, Sahar, like, find the thing, whatever it is, and find a way to make it beautiful.
Right. No, I love that quote very much. But yeah, and it's like I said, some days it's easy. I think a lot of it depends on how you're feeling. And the days that are hard, though, are the days that I think that you need it the most. And I still, living here on Maui, I still have times when I have a hard time, and it totally is related to what you're feeling, not necessarily where you are.
So can we talk a bit about your partnership with Mental Health America? How did that get started? How are you working together to battle, the stigma against mental illness?
We partnered about 2 years ago. I had emailed them just to let them know that because I donate 5% of the proceeds from my shop to them. And I was just emailing them to let them know about it. And they said, do you have time to talk to us? Blah, blah, blah. And yeah, so I hopped on a call, and I had no idea. They asked me if I would be a partner with them. They really were interested in what I was doing, and that I was speaking out about depression, which is what they're all about. They have a hashtag Fight in the Open, which is just about sharing your story in the open so that others know they're not alone and that others know it's okay to talk about it. So that's how it started. And basically what we do is we just help promote each other's missions. They promote I Choose Beauty and, the mission to look for beauty every day. And I just help promote their resources because they have a lot of resources that people might not know about. They have a support group. They have information about finding therapists. They have information about all the different mental illnesses. So I just try to share a little bit of my story and then let people know that if they need, professional help, to seek it, and that if they need resources, that Mental Health America has a lot of resources.
So I know earlier you kind of talked about, just briefly, you mentioned like you kind of weren't sure how people would respond when you first started this and shared your story publicly. What were some of those hesitations and those hurdles for you? What was it like to, be brave and tell your story? And then what kind of a response have you received since starting all this?
So before I was online, I worked in television. I was a health reporter for 12 years. And when my mom died, which was 20 years ago, is when my family, my brothers and sister and my dad all kind of put together the whole depression piece. And my mom had severe depression. And I really wanted to talk about it when I was in TV, but I was, kind of told not to do it. No one told me not to do it, but people were like, well, I don't know if you really want to. Does that make sense? It's not like I couldn't do it, but I just kind of felt like it maybe wouldn't be a good idea since I was in such a public place. And so now it's like, I don't have anyone to really tell me what to do. And I feel like, I don't mean that they told me I couldn't do it, but I don't feel like I have that to think about anymore. It's like I can do whatever I want. And it's like, this is what I should have been doing a long time ago. And I'm so glad to be doing it now because I honestly feel like what I went through, my depression and coming out on the other side, that I'm here to let people know that you can get through it and you can be okay. There is light after the darkness. I think it's just kind of the way I did it. It wasn't like all of a sudden I completely came out so it just kind of happened gradually. So first it started with posting the pictures and then I started sharing a little bit more and a little bit more. And now I'm just open to pretty much sharing anything about it because I know that it'll help other people. I hope that all made sense. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, I think it certainly does.
That's great.
Yeah. Could you tell us a little bit about what the response has been like? Like what was it like initially from people who were tuning in and starting to follow, and has that changed as you've gone along?
Yeah, so when I first started, I was really just doing it for myself. I was doing it as a way to heal and a way to kind of stay on top of the depression and manage it. And it was really weird to me because after a year of posting, I just posted something saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's been a year. And I got a lot of people that were messaging me and commenting and saying thank you. And I was like, why are you thanking me? And that's when I realized, they were telling me how much it had inspired them. Yeah. And so since then, it's kind of grown into something where I have a challenge and people have taken the challenge and we've formed a little community where everybody's just, it's all on Instagram and it's just, you can tell that there are friendships made and there's just a lot of support in that hashtag feed. If you go through it, people are supporting each other because some people post just a little caption, but sometimes people post, about how hard their day was. And whenever that happens, you can see the community coming together to lift that person up.
Can you please talk a bit about noticing symptoms of depression, either with yourself or let's say with a friend or a loved one? Like what should people be looking for? And what are the best initial steps to take when you're approaching a person about the topic?
I think it can be different for everyone. Like I know people who have depression who are just start being more irritable than usual. So that can be something. It's really just if they're acting a little different than what they normally are. For me, I was just really sad, like all the time. And I would put on, a face when I was in public so that people wouldn't notice. But then I would, when I was at my worst, I was crying every single day. And I think part of it too that I think is really important is to reach out to people, because like when I was depressed, I didn't really want to reach out to people. I wanted to just be alone and not bother people. So I think if you're the friend of someone, is just to, if someone seems to be withdrawn, just to, check on them and just ask them how they're doing. Something so simple as just saying, how are you doing today is huge, because I think when someone else initiates it, you're more likely to talk than if, for me anyway, I wasn't going to call someone, even my close friends, I would call sometimes, but then I felt like I was being a burden and I didn't want to drain them.
Is there anything that, if you're trying to be supportive of someone in your life who has depression, is there anything that you should not do?
Oh yeah.
Like, please goodness, do not do this. Yes.
I mean, I heard a lot of things and I know people didn't mean it, but I had people say, oh, you're being a Debbie Downer, or, people have it much worse than you. And, look on the bright side, and just those cheery things, whether they're intentional or not, I don't know that people mean them to be, but they just I can't say the word. They trivialize depression. I mean, it's like when you have depression, it's not like you're being a Debbie Downer. I mean, you have an illness and you are struggling, just to get out of bed every day. So I think it's something, not to say those little things, cheer up or buck up or any of that. It's like, if you're going to say anything, say, are you okay? And, I think you might need help.
So obviously social media has been a really important tool for you in your battle with depression. But we've also seen, and we've talked about a lot on the podcast, the fact that social media can kind of exacerbate the problem for some people because, they're already having feelings of self-doubt. And of course, we know that depression magnifies that in your head. And then if you're comparing yourself to others, comparing yourself to strangers on the internet, that can just compound those feelings of inadequacy. So I'm curious about your thoughts, or if you have rules or guidelines that you follow in your use and your consumption of social media. And, do you have any tips that you might offer to people who want to use social media in a helpful and thoughtful way, but are worried about falling into some of those, comparison traps?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think you have to really be careful and who you're following, what you're following. I mean, you have that choice to follow whoever you want. So like, for example, like I don't get on Facebook except for work, because to me, Facebook really brings me down. There's so much negativity there, whether people are arguing or, talking about politics. And it just seems like it just cultivates this environment of negativity and hatred. And I only get on there for work. But for me, for Instagram, it's totally different. And I think it's because the people that I'm following and that I connect with are all, not everybody is positive all the time, but it's that kind of environment where I'm not following somebody that I'm, comparing myself to. And I totally get that, because there are a lot of accounts out there that you can scroll through and probably feel bad whether you're envious of their life or what they look like or whatever. But I also think you have to keep in mind that a lot of that is not real. And I really try to follow people who do keep it real. And I try to keep it real. I mean, from time to time, I say, you see something of beauty every day on my account, but that doesn't mean that everything in my life is beautiful. That is just one thing that I found that was beautiful despite everything else. So yeah, I think you have to really be careful who you follow and who you connect with. And for me, even though I have a positive feed, for lack of a better word, like, I follow people who uplift me, and I look forward to seeing every day. Sometimes it can be too much for me because I'm an empath and I absorb other people's emotions very easily. And, if someone's going through a hard time and they're talking about it, and my first reaction is to try to help them. And I do whatever I can to uplift them and let them know that I'm there for them. But sometimes that can be too much. And when that's the case, I just take breaks. Like, I'll just post my picture, but I won't scroll through anything else. I'll just post my picture because, I am doing it to help myself feel better. So I won't stop doing that, but I'll post my picture and then I won't scroll through anything else. I'll just post it and leave. And then maybe, check back when I'm feeling better in a few days and connect with everyone else at that time.
So maybe someone is listening to this show right now and they kind of are recognizing these symptoms and you're sort of inspiring them. Maybe I need some help. Maybe I need to talk to someone. What are some good resources for people that are looking for help?
I always point everyone to Mental Health America. If you go to their website, it's mentalhealthamerica.net. It has a lot of valuable information. You can take a free screening to let you know, if you are showing symptoms of a mental illness. And it also has different resources, different things you can do, different ways to get help, whether it's therapy or if it's, different meditation and things. It just has a lot of options for you and you can really learn a lot. But I think the most important thing is that they do offer a free screening. It's just a short online screening where you can answer some questions and find out where you are.
So because we are the Fit Bottom Girls podcast, and I actually know you through some of your work that you did, and you were doing Fat Fighter TV back in the day.
God.
Right? Oh my goodness. That's so fun. I want to see if you maybe talk about working out and depression. We've run a few posts, because workouts are always they can be so mood boosting, but they're not always, the cure all for everything when it comes to mental health. So can you talk about your experience with working out before, when you were depressed, now, all of that, how it's changed?
Sure. Yeah. And when you referred to my post earlier about how to be happy living with depression, that is one of the elements is exercise. It's funny because when I was in therapy, my therapist would always ask, are you exercising and how's your diet? Because those things are so crucial. I think I've gone through different phases when it comes to exercise. I went through phases where I was doing hardcore, like boot camp. And now I'm kind of, I don't know if it's because I've gotten older, or just things are, what I like has changed. But one thing that always has remained a constant is my most go-to exercise is just brisk walking or walking. And that has not changed. But as far as like boot camp, I wouldn't do boot camp or anything that hard anymore. Not hard, but hardcore. It's just not me anymore. So what I do now, I love Pilates and I love bar, and I believe that those can be just as good for you as, doing something that is more high intensity. And it does definitely affects your mood. The challenge with depression is that when you don't feel like doing anything, even doing something that makes you feel good is hard. So I really, really struggled with that. Like, I was like, I know if I do this, I'll feel better, but I can't even get out of bed. So it's like a catch-22. When I was in Ohio, I thankfully had a few people that I worked out with, and that helped so much. Just, having an accountability partner. And I think that's really the best thing you can do when you're depressed and you need to do something, is to have someone kind of help you get there, because it's like you're just walking through mud with weighted shoes. It's like everything is so hard. Does that answer your question?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So shifting gears just slightly, tell us about your shop. Like, how did that come about? And can you talk about how it ties in and supports your mission?
Yeah, so my shop just kind of grew out of, I never intended to have a shop. It just kind of grew out of what I was posting on Instagram. So when I first started posting, it was a picture every day. And then I started sharing some of the coping statements that I learned in therapy. So like, I think I was doing it on Monday for like Monday motivation. I was just posting the graphics, focus on the good, breathe, hold on, this too shall pass, be happy with now. Those are all coping statements that I learned when I was in therapy. And they were things that got me through, and I would print them and post them everywhere. It's going to be okay. Or I would repeat that to myself. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And those were things that I learned in therapy. And, so I just would start posting them as an inspirational message. And then those messages turned into designs and onto some products. And they're just meant to really help you if you're struggling, if you need something to hold on to. Because when I was depressed, I think, and I don't know if this is because I have a background in journalism, but I was always looking for words. I was always looking for the right words to help me, to heal me, to make me feel better. And I would go through, I was trying to find the right quotes, or I would look through, as many self-help books as possible. But what really got me through were these coping statements. I just believe that words are so powerful and they help heal. And so that's what my products are based on. They're based on my coping statements.
So you pay attention to a few very specific things every day to kind of manage your happiness. Can you talk to our audience a little bit about them? Maybe a few of them?
Yeah, sure. I always tell people that, depression is a daily fight. So I pay attention to, one thing is, my thoughts for sure. I learned my therapy was cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, which focuses on reframing your thinking. So I rely on the tools that I learned in therapy. So I pay attention to my thoughts and, reframe the negative ones. That's one thing I really do. And then I choose beauty is a huge part as well, because it just shifts your focus just for a minute. And I think that's what it's all about, is just shifting your brain to something good. I really pay attention to what I eat. I eat very clean, except for, of course, a little chocolate here and there. But I pretty much eat clean, and I try to exercise a little bit, and I just try to do whatever I can, whatever's in my control to be healthy, because I believe, you're connected, your physical health and your mental health. So that goes, into everything, avoiding environmental toxins and just doing whatever you can, whatever's in your control to be healthy. And that's what I have to do every single day. And when I don't, if one of those things is off, like if I, ate kind of crappy one day, or I wasn't able to really fight back with my negative thinking, then I can definitely feel it in my mood. So it does take a lot of different elements for sure every day.
What would you say has been the biggest thing that the biggest takeaway, the big learned since starting this?
I'm sorry, you were cutting out.
Oh, sorry. What do you think has been the biggest takeaway, the biggest lesson that you've learned since starting I Choose Beauty?
I think the biggest thing I've learned is that you really can find beauty even when things are not going well. And that is actually the time when you should find it, when you probably need to find it the most. I will preface that by saying that if you have gone through something and you're in the initial stages of depression and it's very raw to you, the most important thing to do is to get help. I know there was a time, there was no way I would have been able to see anything of beauty, and that is okay. You know, that's just where I was. But knowing that, you know, once you're in a place where you're not raw and things aren't fresh, then I think that's the biggest lesson I've learned, is that you really can find something of beauty no matter where you are. You know, I found things in the depth of the winter, and I found things, you know, at the ocean. So you can find things. You just have to really train your brain to look and to see them. And that's what it really comes down to. It's retraining your brain. I remember when I was in Ohio, I would notice things that had been there all along. And it was like, how did I not see this tree on my street? You know, you just start noticing things. And the more you notice, I think it becomes a little bit easier.
So what's next for you? Is there anything coming up that we should be aware of and excited about?
Well, I'm super excited about the 5 years of I Choose Beauty because, like I said, when I started, I really was just going to do it for a few weeks to get through winter. And I can't believe that it's been 5 years. Right now, I'm just working on redoing a few things on my website and maybe offering a few other items, maybe some digital items to help people. Yeah, that's pretty much what's next for me. It doesn't sound that exciting.
It is exciting.
It sounds so exciting.
It's very exciting.
Like, I don't know.
All right.
What am I doing?
So before we let you go, first thing first, please tell everybody where they can find you on the web, on social media, all that good stuff.
The primary place you can find me is on Instagram, and I am at ichoose.beauty. And then my website is ichoosebeauty.org. And I'm also on Pinterest, Sahar Aker. And yeah, that's where you can find me.
Okay, and we have just one more question, and we ask this of every single person that comes on the show. Are you ready?
I think so.
Go. Okay. What was the last song you listened to before you did this podcast interview?
I listened to Bruno Mars.
Nice. Always a good answer.
He always puts me in a good mood. I listen to wait, what is it called?
That's What I Like?
Yes.
It's a great song.
I love that song. It just puts me in the best mood ever, which is, you know, another thing, you know, I don't know if I mentioned, but I Choose Beauty. It can be, you know, it doesn't have to be a flower or something in the environment. It can be a song. It can be a text message. It can be anything you see, feel, hear, smell, you know. So it encompasses a lot of things, but definitely music is huge when you're not feeling well.
That is a great way to end this interview. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed talking to you guys.
Love this show? Tell us why in a 5-star review on iTunes, and we'll read it on the air. Also, make sure you are a subscriber. If you want to reach out to say hi or have a question about a recent episode, yay, well, feel free to email us at podcast@fitbottomgirls.com. And if this podcast jives perfectly with your brand, consider sponsoring the show. Get more info by emailing advertising@fitbottomgirls.com. Find all kinds of Fit Bottom goodness online and on social media at Fit Bottom Girls, Fit Bottom Mamas, Fit Bottom Eats, and Fit Bottom Zen. And if books and movies are your thing, check out the other podcast I co-host called Book versus Movie, which you can find anywhere where you search for podcasts. Thanks for listening.